Mira stood at the edge of docking bay 12, clutching her small travel bag. She could feel her heart beating fast inside her chest. She had never been on a space station this big before. Haven Prime floated above Earth like a giant city in the stars. People hurried all around her: families, workers, robots carrying cargo, and uniformed officers checking badges. Today was the biggest day of Myra's life. She had an interview with the Advanced Systems Division, the best engineering team on Haven Prime. If she got this job, she would finally have a chance to work on real starship tech and maybe help design new AI systems. She had dreamed about it since she was 12, but first, she had to find the right docking port to catch the shuttle to Sector 8. She checked her band for the gate number again, then stepped aside as a family came by: a man pushing a sleek black stroller, a little boy inside, and a small bag hanging from the handles. The boy couldn't have been older than 3. He had round cheeks and a soft blanket covering his legs. He held a tiny stuffed bear with silver fur. The bear's left ear was torn, and some of its stuffing peeked out. Mira smiled at the boy as he looked up at her with wide eyes. She loved kids, though she didn't have any family of her own here. She was about to look away when the father's cum buzzed loudly. He paused to answer, his voice low but serious. Yes, I know the shipment needs extra security. I'm handling it, don't worry." While the man spoke, the stroller rolled forward a little. The boy, curious, wiggled in his seat. His tiny hand loosened around the stuffed bear. Mira saw the toy slip through the stroller bars. It landed on the smooth metal floor without a sound. The father didn't notice. He kept walking, still deep in his call. The boy's lip quivered when he realized his bear was gone. He turned his head, searching for it, but he couldn't see behind the stroller. Mira didn't think twice. She stepped forward, picked up the bear, and jogged after them. "Excuse me," she called out, weaving through the line of travelers dragging suitcases. The father didn't hear her at first. Mira quickened her steps. She caught up just before they reached the next security gate. "Sir," she said again, louder this time. The man turned, phone still at his ear. He looked confused for a moment, then saw the bear in her hand. His eyes softened. He pulled the phone away and spoke to Myra. "Oh, thank you. I didn't see that fall." Mira bent down so the boy could see his toy. His eyes lit up when she handed him the bear. He hugged it tight to his chest and gave Mira a shy smile. For a second, Mira forgot all about her interview. She laughed and gave the boy a small wave. "No problem," she said to the father. "He really loves this one, huh?" The man chuckled. He seemed older than Mira by maybe 10 years, with dark hair and a tired but kind face. There were faint lines near his eyes that hinted he smiled often, but today he looked a bit stressed. "He does," he said. "His name's Ari. He won't nap without that bear. Thank you, Miss Myra," she said. "Myra Kalin." "Myra," the man repeated, as if trying to remember it. He balanced the phone between his shoulder and ear. "Well, Mira, you saved my day. I owe you one." "It's nothing really," Mira said quickly. "I should go. I have an interview in 20 minutes, and I don't even know if I'm at the right gate." The man raised an eyebrow, as if he found that interesting, but he didn't say more. He shifted his attention back to Ari, who was already drifting off to sleep, bear tucked under his chin. The father gave Mira a polite nod. "Good luck with your interview, Mira. I hope they know how lucky they'd be to have you." Mira smiled, feeling a little warmer inside. She turned and hurried back the way she came, her bag bouncing at her side. She glanced at her band, still 15 minutes left. She picked up her pace. She found the right shuttle just in time. She scanned her ID, stepped onto the sleek passenger cabin, and found an empty seat by the window. She let her bag drop beside her and took a deep breath. Outside the window, Haven Prime's massive rings glowed with lines of soft blue light. Drones zipped past like tiny fireflies. For a moment, Mira let her eyes close. She could still see the boy's happy face when he got his bear back. Such a small thing, but it made her feel like she'd done something right today. She needed that feeling, especially now. A chime sounded through the cabin. The shuttle's doors sealed shut, and a calm voice spoke overhead. Next stop, Sector 8 Research and Development Complex. Please remain seated. Mira sat up straighter, brushing invisible lint from her jacket. She checked her reflection in the dark glass of the window. Her black hair was neat, her simple gray suit looked fine, and her ID badge was clipped straight. She whispered to herself, "You can do this." She thought about the man and his son again. She wondered what he did on Haven Prime. Maybe he was just another worker or a visitor from Earth. She would never see him again, she guessed. It didn't matter, she had a dream to chase. When the shuttle docked, Mira stepped out into Sector 8. The halls here were bright and quiet, lined with glass walls and sealed labs. Scientists and engineers moved about in crisp uniforms, talking in low voices. Mira's heart thumped faster. She found the sign for the Advanced Systems Division and followed the arrows until she reached a tall metal door. She wiped her sweaty palms on her skirt. This was it. The biggest chance of her life. She knocked once, then stepped inside. She did not know that the man she had helped in the docking bay was waiting for her on the other side of this door, ready to decide if she belonged on Haven Prime's most important project, and he had not forgotten her name. Mira stepped into the interview room, trying not to let her nerves show. The room was bright and quiet. One wall was made of clear glass, looking out over Sector 8's garden dome. Tiny plants grew in rows under soft lights. She thought it was strange for an interview room to have such a peaceful view. A woman in a blue uniform sat at a side desk. She looked up and gave Mira a polite smile. "You must be Mira Kalin. Please have a seat. The director will be here in a moment." Mira nodded and sat on the smooth metal chair near the big table in the center of the room. She placed her bag at her feet and took a deep breath. She had read about this division 100 times. Advanced Systems was famous for pushing the limits of AI and human-machine work on Haven Prime. They built the smart systems that ran the station's power, defense, and life support. Getting in was not easy. Mira had worked day and night for years to get her degree, taking small jobs on cargo ships to pay for her studies. Now she was here, and she needed to impress whoever was coming through that door. She glanced at her band. 5 minutes had passed. Her heart raced faster with every tick of the clock. She tried to steady her breathing and fix her hair one more time. Then the door slid open with a soft hiss. Mira stood up so fast she almost knocked over her chair. Her eyes widened when she saw who walked in. It was the same man from the docking bay. He wore a dark gray suit now, with a small silver badge on his chest. His hair was combed neatly to the side. He looked calm but tired, like someone who always had 10 things on his mind at once. For a second, he looked just as surprised as Mira. Then a small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Mira Kalin," he said, his tone warm but professional. "We meet again." Mira opened her mouth, then closed it. Her mind spun in circles. She managed to find her voice. I didn't know you work here." "I mean, sir." He chuckled lightly and set a small tablet down on the table. He gestured for her to sit, then took the seat across from her. "My name is Reed," he said. "Reed Varese. I'm the director of Advanced Systems. And I'm the father of that little boy you rescued from a nap disaster." Mira felt her cheeks burn red. She forced herself to breathe and smiled awkwardly. "I just picked up a toy," she said softly. Reed tapped his tablet, pulling up her file. Her name and photo appeared on the table's built-in screen. Mira tried not to look too closely at it. "Small things matter here," Reed said. "Sometimes they matter more than big things." He looked up, studying her face. Mira felt like he was seeing right through her, weighing her heart as much as her mind. "Tell me, Mira," Reed continued, "why do you want to work here? Don't repeat what you wrote on your application." "I want to know the real answer." Mira swallowed. This was it. She couldn't mess this up now. She sat up straighter, folded her hands, and spoke honestly. "I grew up on old cargo haulers," she said. "My parents were pilots. They're gone now. But I always loved machines, the way they talk to each other, the way they keep people alive in the middle of nothing. I want to be part of the team that makes sure people are safe out here. That we build smarter systems, better systems, ones that don't fail when it matters most." Reed listened quietly. He didn't interrupt. When Mira paused, he leaned back and nodded slowly. "Good answer," he said. "Now tell me something that's not on your file. What's the biggest mistake you've made?" Mira felt her breath catch. Her mind flipped through old memories, failed exams, broken equipment, all the nights she thought she wasn't good enough, that she chose one. "Last year, on the freighter Atlas, I miscalculated the power load for a drone launch," she said. "We blew a fuse that shut down half the cargo bay. It delayed the delivery by 2 days. I didn't sleep until I found the error and fixed it myself. I still double-check every number now." Reed's face didn't give much away. He tapped his tablet again, scribbling something with a stylus. Mira's hands clenched under the table. "Why should I trust you with Haven Prime's core systems?" he asked next. His voice was soft, but the question felt heavy, like a stone. Mira didn't hesitate this time. "Because I care about every wire, every line of code, every person who relies on them," she said firmly. "Because I don't look away when something small goes wrong, even if it's just a toy on the floor." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Reed's lips curved into a small, tired smile. "That's what I thought," he said. He stood up and extended his hand. Mira looked at it, confused. "That's it?" she asked. "For now," Reed said. "You'll hear from us soon." "Thank you for your time, Mira." She rose and shook his hand. His grip was steady, warm but firm. She could see a hint of fatherly tiredness in his eyes, but also something else: respect. Maybe even hope. Mira picked up her bag, her mind still spinning. She managed a polite nod before she left the room. As the door closed behind her, Reed looked out through the glass wall at the garden dome. He pictured Ari asleep in his small bed back at their quarters, the stuffed bear safe under his arm. Small things matter. Sometimes they change everything. Mira barely slept that night. After the interview, she returned to her small bunk in the guest quarters on Haven Prime. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word she had said to Reed Varese. She wondered if she sounded confident enough, or maybe too eager. She worried that telling him about her mistake on the freighter made her look careless instead of honest. By morning, she felt like she hadn't closed her eyes at all. She made herself get up anyway. She combed her hair, put on a fresh shirt, and checked her band every few minutes. It stayed blank, no messages, no calls. She thought about sending a polite follow-up message, but didn't want to look desperate. To clear her mind, she decided to take a walk through the garden dome. She needed air, real plants, not metal walls. The dome was one of her favorite places on Haven Prime. It was big enough to feel like a park on Earth. There were benches, walking paths, and small green trees that swayed under artificial lights. Mira found an empty bench under a young maple tree. She sat down and watched a pair of kids chase each other down the path. A woman sat nearby reading a book, her bag of groceries resting by her feet. A few engineers passed by, chatting about some maintenance update. Everything looked normal, ordinary. But to Mira, it felt like her whole future was balancing on the next message. She leaned back and closed her eyes. She thought about her parents for a moment. They would have been so proud to see her here on one of the biggest stations orbiting Earth. trying to become more than just another mechanic on a cargo ship. When she opened her eyes again, a shadow fell across her bench. She blinked up into the bright light and saw Reed Voorhees standing there. He was alone this time, holding a slim folder in one hand. He wore no jacket, just a simple shirt rolled up at the sleeves. He looked less like a director and more like any tired parrot who hadn't had his morning coffee yet. "Mind if I sit?" Reed asked. Myra scrambled to stand up. "Oh, of course, sir." He chuckled. "Relax, Myra, sit." She sat back down as Reed lowered himself onto the bench beside her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Myra's eyes flicked to the folder in his hand. She wondered if it held her answer. Reed looked out at the garden path. A breeze from the air system rustled the maple's leaves. He sighed, almost as if he was enjoying the quiet. "You know," he said finally, "I used to hate this dome when they built it. Said it was a waste of space. Too much water, too much light, too much to maintain. But Ari loves it here. He likes to count the trees." Myra smiled faintly. "It's peaceful," Reed nodded. He turned to face her, his expression serious now. "I didn't call you here just to talk about trees, Myra. I wanted to see you in person, face to face." He opened the folder. Inside was a slim data pad and a single printed paper. He handed the paper to Myra. Her fingers trembled a little as she took it. She read the first line. "Offer of employment. Advanced Systems Division, Haven Prime." Her heart skipped. She read it again to be sure she wasn't dreaming. "You're offering me the job?" she asked, her voice small. Reed's mouth twitched at the corners, as if he was trying not to grin. "I am. It's a junior engineer position for now sensor arrays, system monitoring, some eye patch work. But I expect you'll move up quickly. You see details most people don't. We need that." Myra stared at the paper. She read the salary line more than she ever made on any cargo ship. She read the benefits quarters on Haven Prime, training credits, station privileges. She looked up at Reed, her eyes wide. "I don't know what to say." "Yes, usually works," Reed said lightly. Myra let out a small laugh. She tried to hold back tears. She didn't want to cry in front of her new boss. She breathed out and nodded double quotes. "Yes, yes, I accept. Thank you, sir." Reed relaxed into the bench as if a weight lifted off his shoulders. He took the paper back and slid it into the folder. "Good, you start tomorrow. Report to Bay 3C at 0700. Wear something you don't mind getting oil on." Myra laughed again. She couldn't help it. The tension in her chest melted away, replaced by something warm and bright. Reed looked at her, more father than director for a moment. "You did a kind thing for my son," he said. "But that's not why I hired you. You notice small things. You care enough to fix them. I trust people like that more than the ones who just talk big." Myra nodded, trying to find her voice. "Thank you, I won't let you down." Reed stood up and tucked the folder under his arm. He gave her a small nod. "I know you won't." He turned and started to walk away, but then he paused and looked back. "By the way, Ari wanted to say thank you too. He's saving you a drawing. Don't be surprised if it's just a picture of that bear." Myra laughed, covering her mouth with her hand. "I'd love that," she said. Reed smiled properly this time, just a small tired smile, but genuine. Then he walked off down the path, disappearing into the flow of people in the garden dome. Myra sat on the bench for a long time after he left. She looked up at the soft dome lights that mimicked sunlight. She listened to the leaves rustle in the artificial breeze. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she belonged somewhere. Tomorrow, she would stand among the best engineers in orbit. She would help keep this floating city alive. And maybe, just maybe, she would build something that made life a little safer for the next kid clutching the toy bear in his stroller. The next morning, Myra woke up before her alarm. For a few seconds, she lay still in her new bunk and listened to the soft hum of the station's life support. The air was cool and clean. Her mind felt sharp, ready. She jumped up, pulled on a dark work suit, and tied her hair back. She looked at herself in the small mirror above her sink. Her eyes were bright, even if she hadn't slept much. Today is the start, she thought. Don't mess this up. She grabbed a quick breakfast from the mess hall, a small protein bun and warm tea, and hurried to Bay 3C. As she stepped through the sliding doors, her eyes widened at the size of the hangar. The space was huge, tall walls, covered in cables and pipes, bright work lights, open drone pods, and stacks of metal crates. Engineers moved about with toolkits strapped to their belts. Machines beeped softly as they ran checks. The air smelled of oil, metal, and cleaning spray. A young man in a green work vest waved her over. He had short black hair and a friendly face. He held a scanner in one hand and a cup of cold coffee in the other. "You must be Mira," he said. "I'm Yalan. Reed told me to look out for you. Come on, I'll show you around." Mira followed him through rows of half-finished drones and open workbenches. Yalan talked as they walked. "We're on maintenance duty today. These drones handle external inspections, checking for cracks, leaks, hull stress, that sort of thing. They keep the station safe, but they're old, always need love." They stopped at a workbench with a drone shell open like a clam. Wires hung out, blinking tiny lights. Yalan set his coffee down and pulled a small tool from his belt. "First rule," he said, pointing at the drone. "These things look simple, but they're smarter than they act. Always double-check your power connections before you touch anything else." Last month, a new guy fried a whole row of processors. Took a week to fix. Mira nodded quickly. She liked Yalan already. He spoke like a teacher but didn't make her feel stupid. He handed her a small tablet. "Here's today's work order. You run checks on this drone's sensors. I'll fix the power module. Deal?" Mira said. They got to work. Mira slipped on her gloves and gently tapped at the drone's sensor ports. She checked each wire, each small circuit, scanning for cracks or loose ends. As she worked, she forgot her worries. It felt good, clean work, honest work. Now and then Yalan made a joke to break the silence. Mira found herself laughing more than she expected. She didn't feel like the new girl anymore. A few hours later, they finished the first drone and moved to the next. Mira looked up when she heard a soft laugh behind her. It was Reed. He stood with a tablet tucked under his arm, watching them from a short distance. "Good start?" he asked. Mira stood quickly and wiped her gloves on her jumpsuit. "Yes, sir. Almost done with the second drone." Reed nodded. "Good. Yalan, mind if I steal Mira for a bit?" "Not at all, sir." "Take her. Give me a break from explaining things." Twice, Reed raised an eyebrow at Yalan, who grinned and returned to the drone. Mira followed Reed to a quieter corner of the hangar, near a big window that looked out into open space. A small blue planet hung far below. Earth. Mira could see thin lines of light along the curve where cities still glowed in the dark. Reed turned to her. "How's your first day?" Mira smiled. "Better than I dreamed. Yalan is a good teacher." "That he is. He was new once too. Everyone here was." Reed leaned back against the wall, crossing his arms. He looked tired again but calmer today. "I wanted to ask," he said slowly, "why you stayed out here. Haven Prime isn't easy for everyone. Most new hires dream of going back to Earth when they save enough credits." Mira thought for a moment. She looked at Earth far below, so green and blue. It felt like another life, one she never really had. "I don't feel like I belong down there," she said honestly. "I like the quiet up here. I like knowing I'm doing something that matters. Small or big, and," she hesitated, "it feels like my parents are close when I work with ships and machines. Like they're still out there in the dark, flying somewhere." Reed didn't say anything right away. He just nodded, as if he understood. Maybe he did. Mira knew he'd lost his wife some years ago. People whispered about it, but never said much. You'll do well here, Reed said finally. Keep your eyes sharp, ask questions. And if anyone gives you trouble, tell me, Mira smiled. I will. Thank you, sir. Reed checked his tablet, then looked back at her. Oh, and when you finish your shift, come by my office. Ari wants to see you. He's very proud of his drawing. Mira laughed softly. I'll be there. Reed gave her a small nod and walked off to talk to another team. Mira turned back to the window for a moment. The stars winked at her through the thick glass. The blue of Earth looked soft and far away. She felt it deep inside. She was exactly where she was meant to be. Then she turned back to the workbench, ready to get her hands dirty again. The rest of Mira's first day passed faster than she expected. She finished the sensor checks on 3 drones with Jalen's help. By the end, her gloves were smudged with oil and her hair smelled faintly of burnt wiring. She didn't mind at all. She felt useful again. She felt alive. When her shift ended, she packed up her tools and said goodbye to Jalen, who gave her a cheerful wave and told her to get some real food and sleep. Mira promised she would, though her mind was on Reed's words. Ari wanted to see her. She made her way to the admin block, feeling slightly out of place in her dusty jumpsuit among all the clean uniforms and bright polished floors. She caught her reflection in a glass door, stray hair escaping her tie. Small oil marks on her sleeve, but she didn't care. A young assistant showed her to Reed's office. It was small but neat, with shelves full of old model ships and thick paper files. The walls were lined with screens showing station maps and maintenance stats. Reed sat behind his desk, his sleeves rolled up as usual. Ari was there too, sitting cross-legged on the floor by his father's chair, crayons spread around him in a bright circle. He looked up when Mira came in and grinned wide. Mira! He shouted. Reed winced at the noise but chuckled. Use your inside voice, bud. Ari scrambled up and ran to Mira, holding out a folded piece of thick white paper. Mira bent down to his level and took it carefully. You made this for me? She asked. Ari nodded proudly. It's you and me and Papa and Benny. Mira unfolded the paper. The drawing was done in green, blue, and yellow crayon. She saw a big round shape, Haven Prime's dome. Inside, there were stick figures. One taller one with a square head, probably Reed. A tiny one with big round ears, Benny the bear. A small child with wild lines for hair, Ari. And another with long hair. Her stick figure held Benny's paw. The bear was bigger than everyone else in the picture, which made her smile. It's perfect, Mira said. Thank you, Ari. Ari beamed. He tugged her sleeve. Can we play? Papa said when you come, you can play. Mira looked at Reed, who shrugged and gave her a half smile. He's been waiting all day. I told him 5 minutes. Mira laughed. She didn't mind at all. She sat on the floor with Ari and listened as he told her all about his toy ships and his bear's adventures. He showed her how Benny was the captain of every mission, even when the other toys wanted to be in charge. Reed watched them for a while, leaning back in his chair. His eyes softened at the sight of Ari's wide grin. For a moment, the tired lines around his eyes seemed lighter. After about 15 minutes, Reed finally cleared his throat. All right, Captain Ari. Mira has to eat dinner and sleep. She has another long day tomorrow. Ari frowned but hugged Benny tight and nodded. He turned back to Mira. You come back tomorrow? Mira smiled and nodded. I'll come see you again, and Benny too. Ari giggled and hid his face in Benny's fuzzy head. Reed stood and walked Mira to the door. Outside the office, the hallway was quiet except for a few workers passing by with data pads. Thank you for giving him a little time, Reed said. Mira shook her head. I didn't mind. He's sweet. Reed looked down the hall, then back at her. You're settling in. Well, Jalen says you work fast and ask good questions. That's exactly what I want. Mira felt her chest warm at the praise. I'm glad. I really want to stay useful here. Reed paused, searching her face for a moment. Then he said something that surprised her. "I know what it's like to start over," he said quietly. "Keep doing what you're doing, and you'll be here as long as you want." Mira didn't know what to say, so she just nodded. "Thank you, sir." Reed gave her a tired smile. "Get some rest, Mira. Tomorrow you'll learn the inside maintenance systems. That's when it gets fun," she grinned, looking forward to it. Back in her bunk later that night, Mira pinned Ari's drawing to the wall above her bed. It was simple, messy, and colorful. But to her, it was something more. It was proof that someone saw her. Not just as another mechanic passing through, but as someone who belonged here, someone who could be trusted. She lay back on her pillow, staring at the drawing, the dome, the stick people, the bear bigger than life. She smiled in the soft darkness. Outside her small window, the stars drifted by in silence. Haven Prime hummed around her, a metal world hanging above Earth, held together by thousands of hands like hers. Tomorrow would come with new wires to fix, new puzzles to solve. Maybe she'd make mistakes, but she would keep learning. She would keep her promise to herself and to Reed and Ari too. Somewhere deep inside, Mira knew this was just the beginning. Her new life was unfolding, one small kindness, one small repair, one small stick figure drawing at a time. The next morning, Mira arrived at Bay 3C even earlier than usual. She liked the silence of the empty hangar before everyone came in. The lights were dim and the big cargo doors were closed tight. The only sound was the soft buzz of the power lines running above her head. She tied her hair back neatly and double-checked her tool belt. Today, Reed had told her she'd learn about the station's internal wiring, power grids, control lines, and data pipes that kept the whole place alive. It was important work. She wanted to get it right. Jlen arrived a few minutes later, yawning and carrying 2 cups of hot tea. He handed one to Mira. "You're early," he said with a tired smile. "Excited?" Mira laughed. "A little. I want to be ready." They sat on a crate and sipped their tea. When the other workers started to arrive, Yalen finished his drink and clapped his hands once. "All right, Mira, lesson time. Today you follow me into the service tunnels. Ever been inside?" She shook her head. She'd seen the big blueprints, narrow crawl spaces between the metal walls, filled with pipes, wires, and blinking boxes. They ran through the whole station like hidden veins. "First rule in the tunnels," Yalen said as he led her toward a heavy hatch. "Keep your line on. If you get lost in there, you might crawl in circles forever." He pulled out a small clip-on light and handed her one. She attached it to her collar and switched it on. The tiny beam lit up a small circle in front of her. They pushed through the hatch. Inside, the air felt cooler and the metal walls pressed close around them. Thick bundles of wire ran along the sides, held by brackets and plastic ties. Small lights flickered on and off, marking active cables. "Today we're fixing a short," Yalen explained as he crawled ahead. "Section B9 has been glitching for 2 days. Lights keep flickering, doors won't open right. Not a big problem yet. But if the main wire burns out, half the lower deck goes dark." Mira followed him on her hands and knees. The tunnel felt like a maze. Every few meters, a new turn appeared. Sometimes the floor dipped down or sloped up. Her knees ached, but she didn't complain. She liked seeing how the hidden parts worked. Finally, they reached a small junction box. Yalen tapped it with his wrench. "This is it. The wire behind here is loose or damaged. Hold the light steady." Mira aimed her collar light while Yalen unscrewed the cover. A mess of colored wires came into view: red, blue, yellow, and black. Some looked old, wrapped in tape and faded labels. "See this burn mark?" Yalen said, pointing. "That's our trouble. One of the older cables got overloaded. When they built this place, they used cheaper lines for non-critical systems. Now we get to fix it." He showed Mira how to carefully cut away the old wrap and splice a new piece in. She watched every move, her mind storing each detail. When he let her strip a wire herself, her hands shook a little at first, but she did it right. Good hands, Yalin said, nodding. Keep them steady and you'll be teaching this in no time. Mira smiled. She liked hearing that. She liked feeling useful. It took almost 2 hours to replace the bad wire and seal the box again. When they crawled back out, Mira felt sweat running down her back, but she also felt proud. They stood up and stretched near the hatch. Yalin checked his tablet. Power looks good, he said. One more fix today, and then we're heroes. Mira laughed. Every hero needs lunch first. True. Let's get some noodles. They ate in the small mess hall, talking about all the weird things that could hide in the tunnel's lost tools. Old cables, sometimes even tiny cleaning bots that ran off their tracks. Mira listened closely. She liked Jalin's stories. He made the hard work sound like an adventure. When they returned to the bay, Mira saw Reed talking to another supervisor near the big window. He looked serious, pointing at something on his datapad. She thought about waving but decided not to interrupt. Yalin checked the next work order and sighed. Looks like we have to check the waterline sensors too. Come on, more tunnels for you. They crawled into another tunnel, this one narrower and full of pipes that dripped cool condensation. Mira felt a chill run down her arm when her sleeve brushed a wet pipe. She followed Yalin carefully, making sure not to bump any loose valves. Halfway in, they found the sensor. Yalin flipped it open and frowned. Well, that's not good. What is it? Mira asked. He showed her the tiny circuit inside. Water had dripped on it for weeks, corroding the edges. The signal wires were half gone. If this fails, he said, the tanks might read empty when they're full, or the other way around. Not fun for anyone taking the shower later. He handed Mira a small tool kit. Your turn. Clean this out and patch it. I'll hold the light. Mira felt nervous but excited. She carefully scraped away the corrosion with a tiny brush. Then she clipped off the worst wire ends and spliced fresh ones in. It took her longer than it would take Yalin, but he didn't rush her. When she finished, he tested the sensor. A green light blinked on. Perfect, Yalin said. Told you steady. Hands. They crawled back out and Mira felt her arms ache, but her heart felt light. She'd fixed something important all by herself. As they packed up their tools, Yalin clapped her on the shoulder. You're a natural. Keep this up and Reed will have you running your own team someday. Mira laughed. One day at a time. Right now I just want dinner. When she left the bay that evening, she passed by Reed's office again. Through the glass, she saw Ari sleeping on the couch, hugging Benny tight. Reed was at his desk, typing something with a tired look on his face. For a second, Reed looked up and saw Mira. He didn't smile, but he gave her a small nod of quiet. Thank you for another day done, right? Mira nodded back, then turned down the hall. The stars outside the big windows shone steady and cold, but inside, the warm hum of the station and the memory of Ari's drawing made her feel safe. Tomorrow, she knew there would be more wires, more broken things, more tunnels. And she was ready for all of it. The days passed quickly, but Mira felt like she was learning something new every moment. She had spent time crawling through tunnels, fixing wires, and testing sensors. She knew the station's heartbeat better than ever, but today was different. Today, Reed had asked her to join a special meeting, a chance to speak about her ideas and share what she had noticed since she arrived. Mira woke up early, her heart pounding with a mix of nerves and excitement. She dressed carefully, making sure her jumpsuit was clean and neat. She pinned Ari's drawing to her locker for luck. As she walked toward the conference room, she saw Yalang lean against a wall, sipping coffee. He smiled and gave her a thumbs up. You ready for this? He asked. As ready as I'll ever be, Mira said with a small smile. Inside the room, a dozen faces looked up as she entered. Some were old engineers, some were supervisors, and Reed sat near the front with his arms crossed. Ari was not there, but Mira felt his small presence through the drawing she carried in her heart. Reed stood and nodded to her. Mira has been with us a few days now. She's already found some problems we didn't see. I want her to tell us what she thinks. Mira took a deep breath and began. She spoke about the wires in the tunnels, the sensors that needed better protection, and some ideas to make repairs faster and safer. She explained how some old cables could be replaced with stronger, lighter materials they had not yet used. The room was quiet. When she finished, a few engineers exchanged looks, and Reed spoke again. Good work, Mira. These are solid points. We'll test your suggestions starting tomorrow. One older engineer raised his hand. I'm glad to see new talent like you here. It's easy to get stuck in old ways. Fresh eyes help. Mira smiled and thanked him. After the meeting, Reed caught up with her near the door. You did well, he said quietly. You're not just fixing wires, you're thinking like a leader. Mira's cheeks warmed. Thank you, sir. I want to do my best. Reed nodded. I believe you will. The next few days felt different for Mira. People started to recognize her more, not just as the new mechanic, but as someone who mattered. Yalan stopped teasing her about being the new kid and treated her more like a partner. One evening, after a long shift, Reed invited Mira and Jalan to the small common room for a simple celebration. Ari was there too, holding Benny close and giggling as he showed Mira another drawing. Captain Benny is flying again, Ari declared proudly. Mira laughed, feeling warm inside. She looked around at the small group of workers sharing noodles and stories. They weren't just colleagues, they were a family. Reed caught her eye and gave her a small smile. For the first time, Mira saw the tired man behind the boss's mask, the man who cared deeply for his son and his team. As the night grew quiet, Mira stepped outside the station dome. The stars were brilliant tonight, scattered like diamonds across the dark sky. She took a deep breath of the cool air and thought about her journey. From the moment she picked up that little toy from the stroller to the day she stood in front of a room full of engineers, her life had changed in ways she never imagined. She wasn't just fixing machines, she was building a home. And for the first time, Mira felt truly hopeful.